Nothing quite like imagining the apex predator of an inhospitable alien ecosystem. When Riddick and the other passengers aboard the Hunter Gritzner crash land on the planet designated M6117, they are unaware what the planet's approaching total eclipse will unleash. Approximately every 22 years, the desert planet is thrown into a prolonged total eclipse due to the arrangement of the system's bodies relative to the three suns. Independence Day made the quaint flying saucer alien scary again. Terror loomed over the world as the alien city-sized ships breached the clouds and slowly drifted overhead, blocking out the sun and disrupting communications worldwide. The anxiety was only worsened when they appeared to stop and do nothing. The truth was that they were biding their time, strategically positioning themselves for a coordinated, simultaneous attack. When it finally came, the devastation was beyond what anyone expected. Entire cities were annihilated by a single beam of destructive power, millions of lives lost. And their shield technology made them immune to even nuclear weapons. Then we finally got a look at the uglies. Their biomechanical exoskeletons have broad triangular hoods, skull-like heads and a swarm of lengthy tentacles at their back, each one capable of strangling a human. The old Star Wars expanded universe may be officially non-canon now, but 40 years worth of literature and fan investment isn't going away anytime soon. The Yuuzhan Vong is what happens when the writers throw out their own rules and go on a mad what-if spree. The Yuuzhan Vong were an extragalactic warrior race that first arrived in the galaxy around 4000 BBY and only became known to the wider galaxy in 26 BY. Fleeing the death of their own galaxy, the Yuuzhan Vong were commanded to conquer the main Star Wars galaxy by their divinely ordained Supreme Overlord. They viewed the hyperspace and technologically driven society of the New Republic as an abomination to their own genetically engineered organic vessels and weapons. The most unusual thing about the Yuuzhan Vong was that they existed outside the influence of the Force. Jedi could not sense the living Force interacting with them and could not directly affect them with Force attacks. To make them even more fearsome, the Yuuzhan Vong were zealous masochists. Pain and physical torture was nirvana to them, which meant they were emboldened whenever hurt in battle. When you want to make an action horror flick where you have a team of super soldiers get picked off like teenage slasher victims, you need a serious madness. Enter the Predator. A totally sentient intergalactic hunter that dedicates its life to hunting and killing the most dangerous game it can find, including humans. In this first Predator, Arnold Schwarzenegger and his squad are totally unprepared for a technologically advanced alien that's hunting them. With active camouflage, retractable wrist blades, thermal imaging, and a shoulder mount or plasma cannon, it picks off each of his soldier team members without a fight. Once it sees Arnie get on its level, the Predator seems to toy with him by discarding its weapons and removing its face mask. It makes its evil laugh before death at the end that much scarier. And this isn't counting the other tactics and technology we see Predators use throughout the other movies. Bugs are certainly popular inspirations for alien menaces. The swarm of the StarCraft universe, the Zerg hunt and invade the worlds of advanced species, seeking out evolutionary traits to increase their lethality. The Zerg are so menacing that the ancient and advanced Protoss are willing to preemptively exterminate entire Terran colonies to prevent the Zerg from infesting and gaining from them. What makes them truly terrifying is their cunning application of overwhelming numbers. Many Zerg units can burrow underground, lying in wait for unsuspecting victims. Once they're in range, all manner of spikes, claws, fangs and pincers can inflict a grisly death. They're also capable of infesting individual victims like Terrans and deploying them in surprise attacks. Sarah Kerrigan is probably the most famous example, although far from the mindless pawn. She eliminated the existing Zerg command structure and took psychic control of the whole species for herself. The atrocities she commits with the Zerg make them a personally horrifying foe. The majestic halo rings scattered across the galaxy hold a terrible force. In the middle of the Covenant War, the Spartan Master Chief crash lands on the first Halo and encounters gruesome reanimated foes killing and controlling his fellow Marines. The so-called Flood are even capable of wielding the weapons and vehicles that their host victims carried. Over the course of the Halo games we learned that the advanced Forerunners fought a galaxy-spanning war against the encroaching Flood. They were so virulent and destructive that no means of conventional warfare would suffice, so the Forerunners built a network of 7 massive installations and fought hard enough to contain the Flood within them. But the Forerunners didn't stop there. They were so afraid of the Flood that they designed the Halos to emit a pulse that would indiscriminately kill all sentient life in the galaxy. They would rather the galaxy be completely barren of life than risk letting the Flood spread. Of all the different types of space zombies, the Flood is perhaps the most terrifying in narrative and in gameplay. Not to mention the all-controlling Gravemind, which has one of the creepiest and most ominous voices in gaming. The influence that Robert Heinlein's novel Starship Troopers has had on contemporary space sci-fi cannot be overstated. The book codified the Space Marine and power armor tropes and set the tone and portrayal of interstellar conflict with aliens for a lot of works that followed it. It also happened to introduce a pretty gruesome alien race in the Arachnids. The bugs took on the true potential of their terrifying power in the 1997 film adaptation of Heinlein's book. One of the few aspects the film played up instead of satirized. Even the common warrior bugs are twisted arrangements of claws and pincers, disemboweling and dismembering the human soldiers by the thousands. Their colony-controlling brain bugs are fond of lodging a proboscis in human skulls and sucking out all the brains. Not to mention the tank bugs that can spew jets of supercharged acid and melt you in the blink of an eye. Other media and the franchise went even further with the inventive and gory ways bugs could kill us squishy humans. The influence that Robert Heinlein's novel Starship Troopers has had on contemporary space sci-fi cannot be overstated. The book codified the Space Marine and power armor tropes and set the tone and portrayal of interstellar conflict with aliens for a lot of works that followed it. It also happened to introduce a pretty gruesome alien race in the Arachnids. The bugs took on the true potential of their terrifying power in the 1997 film adaptation of Heinlein's book. One of the few aspects the film played up instead of satirized. Even the common warrior bugs are twisted arrangements of claws and pincers, disemboweling and dismembering the human soldiers by the thousands. Their colony-controlling brain bugs are fond of lodging a proboscis in human skulls and sucking out all the brains. Not to mention the tank bugs that can spew jets of supercharged acid and melt you in the blink of an eye. Other media and the franchise went even further with the inventive and gory ways bugs could kill us squishy humans. There's no shortage of abject horrors in the grim darkness of the far future. Each major faction from the Imperium of Man, to the Eldar, to the Necrons, to the Orcs have their own weapons of mass destruction and terrible war machines. But the Tyranid may be the most fearsome at war and conquest of them all. Tyranids are a composite bioform race of many highly specialized evolutions of the same genetic theme. Hideous killing machines, from the size of dogs to the size of Godzillas. When the player begins the Mass Effect game series as the up-and-coming Commander Shepard, it seems as though the rogue Turian Spectre Soren is the most pressing threat in the galaxy. Him along with the tension and hostility between the various spacefaring races. Eventually, Shepard uncovers a horrifying secret with galactic implications. Soren is only the latest indoctrinated herald of the Reapers, a race of colossal eldritch monsters as old as the galaxy itself. They have been cultivating sentient life along an evolutionary and technological path of their own design. And every 50,000 years, They sweep through the galaxy and harvest every sufficiently evolved species, remaking them into one of their dreadnought-sized forms. As if the prospect of being oblivious produced in a galaxy-sized garden wasn't enough, the Reapers have developed an insidious and horrifying way of quelling their victims. Reapers exude a subliminal aura that instills an instinctual subservience on the mind called indoctrination. It makes anyone exposed to them for too long worship the Reapers and rationalize their return. They may not be the greatest conquerors or the largest monsters or the most advanced beings, at least in the original movie. But when it comes to terror, xenomorphs are in a class by themselves. When the crew of the Asks Nostromo first encountered them, they had already witnessed the destructive parasitic nature of the facehugger and the chestburster. Everything about the xenomorph is designed to kill. Their pseudo-giant exoskeleton can stand up to being torched by a flamethrower, and if you do manage to wound it, the acidic secretions it produces can melt starship bulkheads. Its legs and arms let it cover tremendous distances. It has a long